Hello, Gary Brooks, and I'm here to talk about a mock called the Battle of Trenton, which is the historical built on a battle that took place December 26th, and it was really, really key for American history. And the reason why is because our morale was really, really low at this time. August 27th, so about 5 months previously, we had suffered through a battle called Battle of Long Island, lost it really bad. And so the morale was pretty low in the troops, and their enlistments were about to come up. And the feeling was everybody was going to book out of there, and there would be no army to create an America with. So, in essence, George Washington had to do something. At the same time, two other things were on his mind. Number one, at the Battle of Long Island, the Hessians had killed some of our American folks who had already surrendered. Now, that's just not cool, okay? They are mercenaries for pay for King Charles III, and so they were just there to make money and create mischief. So everybody hated the Hessians. The bottom line, everybody hated them. And the other thing that happened was the British decided to put them in Trenton, New Jersey. Now, Trenton, of course, right across the river from Delaware. So in other words, very tempting to hit them. So that's exactly what George Washington wanted to do. So what he did was he waited until, well, let's face it, Christmas Day, and he knew they'd be partying and drinking and all that. And he felt that he could achieve an element of surprise, and he did. So he did the very famous George Washington crossing the Delaware, which everybody's seen that picture. But this is why he crossed the Delaware. So what you have is about 4,000 Americans hitting about 1,400 Hessians, a brigade of Hessians, all at once, boom, in the morning, very quickly, and he had great success. In essence, even though the Hessians were able to form up, they really were not ready to be hit by so many troops, and essentially they gave up pretty darn quick. And so one of the good things about this battle is there's very little loss of life. The Americans only lost 2 killed. 8 wounded, and I'm going to tell you about a couple of those wounded in a second. The Hessians only lost 22 killed and about 83 wounded, but they had 900 captured. So this is the kind of thing you want to fight. You take out an entire huge amount of enemy capability very quickly.
Clean and quick.
Clean and quick. So there's just a couple little historical things I want to point out, and then I'll talk about the mock that are really kind of cool. First of all, there are 2 future American presidents on this mock. Okay, and a lot of people don't really realize that. When you ask them, they're like, oh yeah, George Washington. So that's the easy one, okay? But who's the hard one? The hard one is an American president that a lot of people forget about, and his name is James Monroe. James Monroe. He was our 5th president. He is considered a founding father because he did sign the Declaration of Independence, and he did actually work on the Constitution. And he was also known as the last founding father to become president. But at the time of this battle, he was only a 2nd lieutenant. Straight out of college, he enlisted and served as a lieutenant in the 3rd Virginia Regiment under this man, Captain William Washington. Washington does sound familiar because it's George Washington's nephew. Now, during the battle, there were 2 key guns that they wanted to take out that the Hessians were operating. They shot all the operators, but they wanted to grab the guns, and the Hessians were sending guys over to retake the guns. So they were sent by this guy, Mercer, to go capture that gun. And they had about 6 Continentals and themselves. So James Monroe and Captain William Washington. So Monroe and Washington went forward, and they were 2 of the 8 that were wounded. James Monroe came very, very close to dying, and the reason why is because he was shot in the neck by a Hessian. Okay, so he's about to bleed out, and we're about to lose a future president when this man here saved his life. Believe it or not, an unknown doctor. The guy was just on the road that day. Washington ran into him and said, hey, you want to join the cause? And the doctor said, yeah, I'll go along. So he went along, and he was actually on the battlefield when Monroe took his wound, and he was able to staunch the bleeding and save his life, which gave us our 5th president. So that was kind of a neat little incident. I knew I wanted to portray that. So that is what drove this mock. That's what drove this build here. That central piece right there. So from there, then I built out with the buildings. Now, most of this mock is mine. However, I do want to point out a couple things. This building is by Ryan Keith. Again, the same guy who did the printing press for Thomas Paine and that house. And he popped this out pretty quick with not a lot of coordination, and I thought he did an absolutely outstanding job. The other house that I want to point out is this house here, which is done by my son Joshua, 18 years old. And what I really like about this combination is the bottom line is the building styles are kind of nice, that while they are very different, they still don't clash, and it's kind of cohesive. We don't have a lot of imagery from Trenton at the time. So we figured, well, here's a poor man's house. And here's a house that's about 30 years old from, it was formerly wealthy, and now it's kind of being run down and such. And there's a rich man's house that was just built. And here you have your kind of middle class house. So it was kind of a nice, just holistic way to portray the different classes at the time. Other than that, it's my very first snow build. I've never done one before. So again, I like to do terrain, and I don't like a lot of flat open studs. It doesn't look right. There's the lines don't occur in nature. So I knew I had to break it up with slopes pieces and such. But it was a lot of fun. This was a good build. However, there's one last thing I'll leave you with this. So I did Waterloo last year. And it was a huge, gigantic mock. And everybody has gotten used to seeing that. So the thing that I've heard most at this particular brick fair is people walk up to me and go, "Hey, you did Waterloo. Man, it was so awesome. What did you do this year?" So I bring them over here and I show them this, and their reaction is, "Oh."
What are you going to do, man? People are people.
Yeah, we went big. Well, I can't do big. For all intents and purposes, I didn't have a convention last year. I put minifigs on 2 plates. That's what I did the whole 5 days. So in essence, then, I wanted to have a convention this year, so downsized. And so it's a nice, sweet little mock for Trenton, but it didn't kill me to set it up either.
Definitely. Gary, your work is always incredibly impressive. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that.